anything you want to print in Java, you must be using the statement system.out.println. However, in Java, there is one more variant to print anything on the screen, that is system.out.print. In this video, I'll be demonstrating the difference between system.out.print and system.out.println. So to begin with, let me write a simple program. So I'll begin by writing a simple class whose name is the print. This is the opening of the class. I want the execution to begin from here, so I'll write the main method telling public static void main having so inside this, first I will now tell system this is the closing of the method, this is the closing of my class. So what happens when I execute this? So if you notice, I have now used system.out.print, again system.out.print. First time I'm using it to print hello, second time I'm using it to print world. So what exactly happens when I now use this statement? So when I now execute, what exactly happens? So let us assume this is my output screen. So in my output screen, so first line that needs to be executed is system.out.print. So inside that, what you're trying to print is called as hello. Now please understand one thing. If you now want to print or anything on the screen, you will now be having something called as a cursor. Cursor is nothing but a location where exactly it will be printed. So by default, initially it will be pointing at the top of the screen right here. So from here it will now start to print whatever you have said. So in my first case, I have told to print hello. So hello will now be printed on my screen like this, and the pointer will now be pointing next to here itself. After which the line has been executed, the control will now come to the next line. In this line, you are now telling system.out.print world. So since the cursor is now blinking or staying here itself, the next statement will now be continued printing from here. So in my case, what will happen is world will now be printed here itself like this. This is how system.out.print works. Now what is the difference between system.out.println? That is when what you will understand when I complete my next program. So I'll now write my one more program. So I'll begin by writing one more class called as the println. I want the execution to begin from here, so I will now be writing the main method. Now inside this, I will now tell system dot out dot println. Again system dot out dot println. This time it is world. This is the closing of my main method. This is the closing of my class. So what happens for this println? So say suppose this is my output screen. Initially the pointer will now be blinking here. I mean pointer, when I say I mean the cursor. So first you are now printing system.out.println hello. So if you now closely watch, you have something called as ln inside this. What does this ln do? Ln job is now to take the cursor to the next line after printing whatever you have said. In other words, when I now say system.out.println of hello world, on my screen I will now have hello. The cursor which was which was initially here will now be brought to the next line. So the cursor will now be starting to point here. After which the next line will now be executed. So what have I now told? I have now told system.out.println world, which means cursor, where is it pointing now? Here. So hence the next statement will now be starting to print from here. So the world will now be pointing here. Here if you see, I have now told ln, which means the cursor again, which was now pointing here, will now be brought to the next line. So the basic difference between system.out.print and system.out.println is system.out.print will now print and make the cursor stay wherever it is. However, in system.out.println, the cursor will now be brought to the next line after the printing of the statements. I hope this is completely clear. Let us quickly execute and check out how the output looks. So I have two editors, one to demonstrate system.out.print and the other to demonstrate system.out.println. So let me type the program quickly. When I now execute the first program, you can see hello and world are printed next to each other. However, in the second case, when I now execute, you can now see hello and world are printed one below the other. And you can also see that there is a one more new line after world. That is because you have used ln. ln means move the cursor to the next line. I hope I am completely clear.